Throughout history, the world has seen many disasters that changed societies, economies, and the environment. From pandemics to natural catastrophes, these events have left an indelible impact on humanity. Some disasters spread across continents, causing immense devastation. Others struck suddenly and forcefully, altering landscapes and lives forever. Join us as we explore 8 disasters that changed the world. Number 8 is Black Death. The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, was one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. It swept through Europe and Asia in the mid-14th century, starting around 1347. The disease is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which is transmitted primarily through fleas that live on rats. The symptoms of the Black Death included fever, chills, vomiting, diarrhea, and the development of painful swollen lymph nodes called buboes, from which the term bubonic derives. It had a very high mortality rate, killing between 30% to 60% of Europe's population within a few years of its arrival. The impact was devastating, leading to economic, social, and cultural upheaval across the affected regions. The Black Death was not only a demographic catastrophe, but also a transformative event that reshaped European societies and left a lasting imprint on culture, economics, politics, and public health practices for centuries to come. Its effects were profound and multifaceted, contributing to both immediate crisis and long-term historical change. Number 7 is the Spanish flu. As the dust settled on the battlefields of World War I, a new and invisible enemy emerged: the Spanish flu. In 1918, as the world yearned for peace and recovery, this deadly pandemic swept across the globe with terrifying speed, infecting an estimated 500 million people, about 1/3 of the world's population at the time. Unlike previous flu outbreaks, it struck down healthy young adults, leaving a trail of grief and devastation in its wake. Hospitals overflowed with the sick, and doctors and nurses were overwhelmed, often falling ill themselves. The Spanish flu was a global disaster, sparing no continent and spreading from crowded cities to remote villages. Number 6 is Chernobyl disaster. The Chernobyl disaster was a catastrophic nuclear accident that occurred on April 26, 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near the city of Pripyat in northern Ukraine, which was part of the Soviet Union at the time. During a late-night safety test, reactor design flaws and operator errors caused an explosion and fire, releasing large amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere. This led to the immediate death of 2 plant workers and 28 emergency responders from acute radiation syndrome. About 117,000 people were evacuated from the surrounding areas, and a 30-kilometer exclusion zone was established. The disaster caused long-term health effects, including increased cancer rates and widespread environmental contamination. Efforts to contain the disaster included building a concrete sarcophagus around the reactor, later supplemented by a new steel confinement structure completed in 2016. The Chernobyl disaster was a stark wake-up call for the world. It exposed the dangers of human error and design flaws in nuclear power plants, prompting a global reassessment of nuclear safety protocols. The human cost of Chernobyl was immense. Number 5 is Indian Ocean tsunami. The Indian Ocean tsunami, occurring on December 26, 2004, was triggered by a massive undersea earthquake with a magnitude of 9.1 or 9.3 off the coast of northern Sumatra, Indonesia. The epicenter was located near the western coast of northern Sumatra, approximately 160 kilometers, 100 miles offshore. This tectonic event occurred along the boundary between the Indo-Australian plate and the Eurasian plate, causing a significant uplift of the seafloor and displacing a colossal volume of water. The resulting tsunami generated waves up to 30 meters, 98 feet high, which traveled at speeds of up to 800 kilometers per hour, 500 miles per hour, across the Indian Ocean. The waves struck coastal areas in Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, the Maldives, and even as far as the eastern coast of Africa, including Somalia, Tanzania, and Kenya. The disaster resulted in over 230,000 deaths, including citizens of 46 countries, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. Hundreds of thousands of people sustained injuries, and millions were displaced, losing their homes and livelihoods. The economic impact was immense, with an estimated $10 billion in damage to infrastructure, housing, and industries such as fishing and tourism. In the aftermath, the international community responded with unprecedented humanitarian aid and support. The disaster led to significant improvements in global disaster preparedness and early warning systems. The Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System, IOTWS, was established, deploying seismic and sea level monitoring stations and developing regional coordination centers. Educational campaigns and community-based disaster risk management programs were implemented to enhance local resilience and response capabilities. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami underscored the importance of early warning systems, international cooperation, and community preparedness in mitigating catastrophic events. The lessons learned continue to shape global disaster risk reduction strategies today. Number 4 is Chinese famine. During the Great Chinese Famine from 1959 to 1961, China faced one of the most devastating humanitarian crises of the 20th century. The famine was largely a result of policies implemented during the Great Leap Forward, a campaign led by Mao Zedong aimed at rapidly industrializing and modernizing China's economy. Central to the Great Leap Forward was the collectivization of agriculture, where small agricultural households were forced to join larger collective farms known as communes. This massive reorganization was intended to increase agricultural productivity through pooled resources and centralized planning. However, the reality was starkly different. The policies of collectivization disrupted traditional farming practices and local ecosystems. Incentives for individual farmers to produce were diminished as they no longer had direct control over their land or crops. Moreover, the government set unrealistic production targets for grain and other crops, exaggerating expected yields to showcase the success of collectivization. As a result, agricultural output plummeted. Local officials, pressured to meet these inflated quotas, often exaggerated reported harvests or seized grain from farmers to fulfill quotas. This led to widespread food shortages and famine across rural China, affecting tens of millions of people. Compounding the crisis, the government's policies discouraged reporting of the true extent of the famine. Falsified reports and suppression of information hindered efforts to accurately assess and respond to the unfolding disaster. Official estimates suggest that tens of millions of people died during the famine, although the exact numbers remain disputed and difficult to ascertain due to the lack of reliable data from that period. The Great Chinese Famine serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of centralized economic planning and the devastating consequences of policies that ignore local conditions and human incentives. It remains a highly sensitive topic in China, with discussions and research often restricted due to its political implications. Number 3 is Chicago Fire. The Great Chicago Fire, which occurred from October 8 to October 10, 1871, was a major urban disaster in Chicago, Illinois. It started in the O'Leary family's barn and quickly spread due to strong winds and wooden buildings. The fire destroyed 3.3 square miles of the city, killing about 300 people and leaving 100,000 homeless. The property damage was estimated at $200 million. In the aftermath, relief efforts provided immediate aid, and the city underwent significant rebuilding with improved building codes and fire safety regulations. This reconstruction transformed Chicago into a modern city, leading to rapid economic growth and urban development. The event is remembered for its impact on urban planning and architecture, and it remains a symbol of resilience. Number 2 is Fukushima Daiichi. On March 11, 2011, Japan's coast was struck by a devastating earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded. This earthquake triggered a massive tsunami that surged inland, destroying coastal communities and causing widespread devastation. However, the earthquake and tsunami were just the beginning of a disaster with far-reaching consequences. The tsunami waves, reaching heights over 130 feet, crashed over the seawall, protecting the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. This knocked out the plant's backup generators, which were crucial for cooling the reactors. Without these cooling systems, the reactors began to overheat. This led to a series of hydrogen explosions that tore through the plant's reactor buildings, releasing radioactive material into the air and surrounding environment. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster was the most serious nuclear accident since Chernobyl in 1986. It forced the evacuation of over 150,000 people living near the plant, and raised global concerns about the safety of nuclear power, especially in areas prone to earthquakes. Number 1 is COVID-19. In late 2019, a new coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2 appeared in Wuhan, China. It spread quickly from person to person, starting a global pandemic known as COVID-19. This virus, highly contagious and capable of causing severe respiratory illness, spread at an alarming rate. It crossed borders and continents, overwhelmed healthcare systems, and brought daily life to a standstill. The COVID-19 pandemic was a global crisis unlike any other in recent history. It revealed the weaknesses in our interconnected world, emphasizing the need for strong public health systems, international cooperation, and individual responsibility. The impact was felt everywhere. Schools and businesses closed, travel was restricted, and social gatherings were limited as governments and health officials tried to control the virus. The human toll of the pandemic was devastating. As of June 2023, over 6.9 million people died, leaving families and communities in deep grief. The pandemic also severely impacted the global economy, causing widespread job losses, business closures, and economic uncertainty. The International Monetary Fund estimated a 3.5% contraction in the global economy in 2020, the worst peacetime recession since the Great Depression. Lessons from disaster: a call for resilience. These disasters, though separated by time and circumstance, share a common thread. They remind us of the fragility of human existence and the ever-present potential for catastrophe. However, they also reveal something truly remarkable: the resilience of the human spirit. Time and again, in the face of unimaginable devastation, humanity has shown its capacity to adapt, rebuild, and emerge stronger from the ashes of disaster. These events serve as a solemn reminder of the importance of preparedness, cooperation, and a deep respect for the forces that shape our world. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Stay safe and stay informed.